Hello everybody, my name is SpeZy and welcome to the first video on this new channel. I still need to figure out what I'm going to name this channel. I think it's currently set to like SpeZy NCFC, but I'm sure there's something better I can do with it. But hello, my name is SpeZy. And yeah, I'm going to start making videos about Norwich on here because I really like to talk about football when I get the opportunity to. And having a channel where I can just yap about really nerdy things about football, yeah, sounds pretty fun. So hopefully you all will enjoy today's video. I say today's video, I don't think the videos will be daily, but today we'll be talking about my top three, my first three choices that I would want to replace Liam Manning as Norwich City coach. Or I say to replace Liam Manning, he has already been sacked. He was sacked, what was it? It would have been, was it yesterday or the day before? It was yesterday. Of course it was yesterday, after the game against Leicester, which I was at. Just for a little bit of a background on me, I mean, this is my first video. I'm sure I'll make a video talking about, more about myself, so you guys kind of get an understanding of where my views kind of come from. But this is my first season having a season ticket at Norwich, and that's going really well. I've been to every game other than the Millwall game because I had something else on. So yeah, I've seen us lose every single game at home, and I have watched Manning ball for hours and hours and hours on end, which has been great. And I started really following Norwich again in the middle of the 23-24 season under David Wagner, which was quite fun because I mean it wasn't incredible football, but it was better than Manning ball, so it was okay. And I was really I really started properly following during the first season, well, the only season under Yannis Torp, which was, last season. So I am coming from this with a sort of new perspective. So if I talk about things like, in the past Norwich did this, I'm kind of just looking more at the numbers rather than a feeling, because I didn't get the feeling because I wasn't really paying much attention. I've been a Norwich fan all my life, but haven't really been actively watching until the last roughly 2 years. So hopefully that gives you a background on me, and hopefully that's okay, and hopefully you can still listen to my opinion and still respect it. And if you disagree with my opinion, then you can write nice constructive criticism in the comments. How about that? I think that's a great deal. I'm not expecting that though. It's the internet, but anyway, yeah. So Liam Manning was sacked last night, and I'm going to be talking about my first three choices I would want to replace him. I don't know how long I'll yap for, but here we go. With my first pick, there's a lot of people I'm not going to get on my side, but he is my third choice. We're going to go in order of so third choice, I wouldn't want them as much as my second choice, and second choice, I wouldn't want them as much as my first choice. So we'll go from bottom to the top, my top three. So I have a tab open for, Norwich currently sit 23rd in the championship table, which is horrible compared to, previous seasons, where in this season we finished 13th, and in this season we finished 6th. So, it's been quite the drop-off. So we need a manager who can, bounce us back to at least mid-table, roughly, we'd want. We'd obviously want to escape relegation, but you really want to be looking around here at this point in the season. Teams have been in this sort of situation and gotten higher. Okay, not this bad, but you think of sort of Coventry last season, for example, who were, 19th, 18th, quite, decently deep into the season, and, they just had an incredible run and got up to 5th. I say decently deep, they're less than halfway through, but you know what I mean, had a slow start. And, there's a world where we can emulate that, because I do believe we have good players, but again, it's a bit early to say because we don't know the man who's going to be leading it. But any of these three people I'd be quite happy with. And there's a few others, honourable mentions, I guess I could give out near the end. But anyway, sorry, it's been 5 minutes already and I haven't actually gotten to one of the people, so let's go. First person, Gary O'Neill. He would be my third choice for Norwich manager. I do think there are some flaws with Gary O'Neill, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and I guess well, that's what I'm going to talk about. So he's had two big managerial jobs at Bournemouth, which was in the Premier League. It was Bournemouth's first season back in the Premier League after being relegated about 4 years prior. They sacked Scott Parker about 4 games in. I think they lost like 9-0 to Liverpool or something like that, if my memory serves me right. They sacked him, got Gary O'Neill in, and Gary O'Neill kept them up. I think he got 15th. And then I guess he left at the end of the season. I don't know. I think he was sacked at the end of the season, but and then he joined Wolves, kept them up for the season, getting some very impressive wins, playing some decent football. If you want to listen to Gary O'Neill's tactics, I mean, he's on Monday Night Football a lot, he was also on an episode of, I say an episode, I don't know how it works, but he was on Coach's Voice recently, which I've watched, and that was very interesting. But either way, I mean, I didn't need to see that to like be very confident in him. I'm aware that he's a very smart manager, but you know, it's just like stuff like that that's kind of reassuring, and you're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, and that's always nice. Another factor is that he's been at Norwich City. He was a player for about 2 years. I didn't watch Norwich City around this time, so I can't say much about his talent. So I don't know. I'm sure there'll be people who obviously are watched around this time and can tell me. But 55 appearances is pretty decent in the span of 2 years. Like, you know, at least came on in most games, so that's quite impressive. So clearly a talented player who obviously moved around a lot, as we can see. But we can also see he played for Middlesbrough for a while, so I'm sure he's going to get links with the Middlesbrough job. He probably already has. So, you know, it sort of feels like a 50-50 that we'd get him. But, you know, for manager odds, 50-50 is, you know, for someone like Gary O'Neill with where he's been, it would be good. So I think there's a lot of Norwich fans who aren't, you know, they're not keen on him. But if we look at like the fact that the 2 seasons he's managed in the Premier League, he has kept the teams up, and the teams he's managed haven't been incredible teams. I mean, he has managed some very good players, but the position in the table that he actually picked up from wasn't that high. So even though he's had great players, you know, he hasn't like picked them up in their best state, if that makes sense. But he has gotten them to that good state. I don't know. He's managed players like Cunha, Pedro Neto, etc. Right? Ait-Nouri, who's, you know, gone to Man City, and I believe he starts, so he's obviously doing quite well. So, and you know, he's developed those players. So if he can do just a bit of that at Norwich, you could definitely imagine us, you know, at minimum leaving relegation, and potentially you're only looking upwards, right? And I think he's got the capability to do that, especially as quite a young manager in the grand scheme of things, and someone who's clearly learning. So I think that'll be very interesting. I think it could be interesting to have a long-term project with him, but we'd have to see, and that's obviously only if he gets picked. But yes, he is my third choice. I do think one of the big issues is that the fans might not all warm to him instantly, and I think that whilst he on like some days he's able to get great results out of his team, like as I mentioned earlier, I think they beat Man City 2-1 in the Premier League, and they also beat Chelsea 4-2 at Stamford Bridge, which is incredibly impressive. There are other results where he wasn't able to get that out of his team, which is ultimately why he was sacked, because he left Wolves, I believe, in 20th at the start of the 24-25 season. Not as bad as what Pereira's doing at the start of this season before he got sacked, but still quite bad. And yeah, there is a reason why he is a free agent. It is because he did not do well at the end of that tenure. But I mean, ultimately, I'm not too afraid by that, because it's just, I think Wolves lost quite a few players in that window, and I don't know. I feel like I just don't think it's the biggest concern in the world, but it is a concern, so that's why he's not higher. But he is still my third choice. Anyway, moving to number 2. Now, number 2, I could honestly say could be my number 1 in reality, because I think he is more realistic than the person I have at number 1. So you could even say this is my number 1, but I've got him as number 2, and that is Michael Carrick. I think Michael Carrick would be really, really good at Norwich. I think he ticks so many different boxes. The first thing is that he plays very, very entertaining football. One thing I've referenced when talking to a couple people about this is we remember the season under Johannes, so last season, one of the games of the season was the 3-3 against Middlesbrough. That was a really good game of football, and as they say, it takes two to tango, and that is because both managers of both of those teams wanted to play exciting stuff, and that is always what we want to see as fans. So, getting the manager from the other side of that doesn't sound too bad, especially because the fans are now actually kind of sort of reminiscing over Johannes Oftarp and the style of play. Getting someone like Michael Carrick in immediately seems, more appealing when we think of that. Also including his background as a player, because one of the best ways to get a bounce out of the players is the fact that when Michael Carrick walks into a room, if you're a Norwich player, you know that he has been places so much higher than you, and you want to reach those heights, right? So that is such a good way to not only get across sort of authority, but not in like a bad way, but get across authority. Also, he is just a good manager, so it's not like, oh, we listen to him because he's a good player. He was a really, really good footballer. He's a very talented manager as well. He did well as a very short interim spell at Man United, and then obviously he did quite well at Middlesbrough. I'll just read out some of his Wikipedia because I actually thought it actually put it really well. So in fact, I'll read it all out. Why not? On October 24th, 2022, Carrick was appointed head coach of Championship club Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough were 21st at the Championship at the time of his appointment, with 17 points from 16 games played, 1 point above the relegation zone, which sort of sounds familiar with where roughly Norwich are, right? Despite taking the lead, Middlesbrough lost Carrick's first game in charge 2-1 away to Preston North End. That's a horrible first game, I can't lie. Playing Preston away is not fun as your first game as manager. But then Carrick won 16 of his first 23 Middlesbrough games as the club began to climb the table. On 7th of December 2022, Carrick was nominated for the EFL Championship Manager of the Month and award for November after his first calendar month in charge. Because he got 10 points from 4 matches, which is quite good, scoring 13 goals along the way, which saw him win the award for March 2023. It's kind of written kind of weirdly. Anyway, after guiding his side for a 4th place finish, Middlesbrough lost the playoff semi-finals to Coventry City. Coventry City went on to lose to Luton in the final on penalties, I believe. So he got pretty close to getting promoted in the first season, which is very impressive, especially with where they were at the start of the season. So, I mean, if that doesn't sound similar to the sort of situation Norwich are and want to be in, I mean, come on, that's got to be good, right? In his second season with Borough, Carrick guided Middlesbrough to the semi-finals of the EFL Cup for the first time since 2004. Middlesbrough won the first leg 1-0 at home Chelsea, but lost 6-1 in the return fixture. Middlesbrough entered their 2023-24 campaign in 8th position. On 3rd of June 2024, Carrick signed a new 3-year contract. On the 4th of June 2025, Carrick was sacked by Middlesbrough following a 10th place finish. So he got sacked for finishing 10th place. Norwich would dream of being 10th place right now. So if that's the low of Michael Carrick, we're only waiting to see the high. And also, again, a young manager, that was his first job, will have learned things. I think it's an incredibly interesting and exciting appointment. It might be the most exciting appointment Norwich could really make at the moment, actually. I could argue it's more exciting in the sense of the possibilities than the person I've got at number 1, who I will talk about. But yeah, overall, I just think Michael Carrick would be a really, really strong appointment. He is my number 1 realistic target for Norwich. I'm only including managers who are realistic on here. Honourable mentions I will mention before number 1. People I researched, because I thought about making this a top 5 video, but I decided top 3 would be better. Russell Martin and Ralph Hasenhüttl, I think, are both decent managers for this level, and I thought could be good for the Norwich job, but ultimately I don't think they really tick enough boxes for me to, like, if they were appointed tomorrow, well, I'd back it, but I wouldn't be confident in it. So those are the 2 honourable mentions I thought of. So I feel like I should shout them out. They both. I'm kind of in doubt of Hasenhüttl's communication, and I'm quite in doubt of Russell Martin's communication for a different reason. In terms of relationship to the players and also relationship with the fans. I think could be quite problematic, even though I think he did do some good things at Southampton and at Swansea and MK Dons, and I think that's where he's been. But yeah, and obviously had a very bad spell at Rangers, which we can't ignore, but Rangers is a very difficult job, so you take it with a hand of salt. But anyway, nonetheless, moving to my first choice, I would pick as Norwich City manager. Some people will know what's coming. It's Daniel Farke. There have been very recent rumours that Daniel Farke is under pressure at Leeds following their 3-1 defeat, I think it was, to Nottingham Forest, because, I mean, they are hovering around the relegation zone, which on the surface level seems bad, but if you think about where the promoted sides to the Premier League have been, being outside the relegation zone when you actually deep it is quite impressive at the moment, especially with a Leeds squad that really isn't that impressive. I mean, they have some good players, don't get me wrong, but nothing, world-beating. And when you look at their squad, you would probably expect them to get relegated. So the fact he's got them out of the relegation zone is really impressive at the moment. But it is quite, I believe it is quite known that the Leeds higher-ups, from what I'm aware, aren't like the biggest fans of him. I mean, obviously rumours of him being sacked actually before the season started because of worries that he couldn't cope in the Premier League. So clearly they're not hugely enthusiastic about him. Obviously they kept him, so clearly they do back him to an extent. But if they are concerned about it, there is likely that they could pull the trigger soon. And there have obviously a lot of clubs will pull the trigger in the international window. So if Leeds pull the trigger soon enough, the opportunity will open for Norwich. And to be honest, if I'm Ben Napper, appointing Daniel Farke is really, really smart, because a lot of Norwich fans right now are saying things like, "Oh, I miss when we were in, the Premier League. I miss when we had Daniel Farke. I miss when we had, specific CEOs. I miss when Didier and Michael were running the show." Right? And a great way for Napper to sort of redirect attention away from him, because he's sort of seen as the new, I don't know, he's seen as the figure to hate, which is completely fair because look at where Norwich are since he's taken over. But if he wants to sort of bring back that old feeling that Norwich fans really want, I think appointing Farke should be his number one priority, because ultimately he's done well literally everywhere he's gone. And he embodies Norwich so unbelievably well. It's crazy, and Daniel Farke just loved Norwich when he was here, and I truly believe that if he were to come back, you could definitely get that feeling back, assuming he has a fast start. Because obviously we need that to get out of relegation, and I truly believe that he plays good enough football and exciting enough football that we would quickly get out of the relegation zone. So not only is it good for sort of sentimental reasons, he's a genuinely really good manager who could definitely, it would, again, alongside what I said about Michael Carrick, you'd only be looking up after a certain amount of time, realistically. So I think he's just the perfect appointment for this time for Ben Napper, and that's not me. I'm not saying, like, I don't think it's realistic at this point. If he gets sacked, then we can really realistically think about it. But I wanted to talk about Farke in this video because I couldn't make this video without talking about him, because he is the dream appointment at this time. And I obviously, really ever since he's gone, people have talked about him coming back at some point, and I think this is the best time that we've had since he's gone to bring him back. So if he's not going to come back now, when would he? That's sort of the question. I mean, if he got sacked from Leeds and then remained out of work, and let's say the next managerial appointment didn't work out, then obviously then it would be open. But we can't afford another managerial appointment to not work, because otherwise we'll be in League One. So and then by that point, Farke wouldn't probably come to League One, because he's managed in the Bundesliga or he's managed in the Premier League. You don't really want to drop down to League One, right? So I don't know. I think this is the perfect opportunity to get him, but that's just my opinion. I will head this into full screen. This video has actually gone longer than I thought it would have, so I'm actually quite impressed with myself. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. for more videos. I'm not too sure which type of video I'll make next, although obviously some big Norwich news is going to come in the next week, because I'm expecting the next managerial appointment to come probably next weekend. So, you know, the manager gets a week before the before we return for more championship action. So yeah, and if you disagree or agree, or you just want to say something, make sure to leave a comment with your opinions. I would request that you, even if you have strong opinions against what I've said in this video, ask if you read it in a somewhat polite way. Otherwise, I don't really know how to respond. So if you want me to actually respond, then I will do that. I mean, I will read all the comments, but I probably won't respond if it's bad. So, you know, like if it's really bad. So, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm done. Thank you all for watching. Love you. Bye-bye.